how are we doing? Welcome to my channel, Boomy Reactions. For those of you who are new, I'm Boomy. Hello! And to everyone else, welcome back, my lovelies. Welcome back again. So I have an unusual video that I'd like to share with you today, guys. So this one is called the 13 Etiquette Rules in the US that surprise tourists. Now, I've seen a few of these similar kind of videos where we look at the differences, the quirky little differences between the UK and the US, and I love watching them. They're so interesting. Unfortunately, I have no experience of being in the US yet. I would love to come and visit, but at the moment, I've just got to make do with these videos. So the funniest ones I tend to find are the Lost in the Pond with Lawrence. I like watching those videos. They're so funny, and his sense of humor is just so British, so quirky, so weird, and I love it. I think he's just hilarious. So this is another similar video, guys. So yes, let's get started with the video, because as you know, I do an awful lot of talking. So as ever, guys, if you are enjoying these reactions, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's hugely helpful for my channel, and I thank you.
So our parents teach us to be polite, but what you learned as a kid doesn't always apply when you're in another part of the world.
No.
So if you're heading to the US anytime soon, I've got some tips for you on what we Americans consider the rules of etiquette, and some stuff that's totally okay in the US that other countries might consider rude.
Okay.
Let's start off with my favorite.
Queuing has got to be one, hasn't it? As a British person, you know, we love queuing. We queue for everything, absolutely everything. And quite often, it's quite funny. You can spot a British tourist anywhere in the world. I'm convinced you could spot us a mile away. We queue for everything, even when other people are not queuing. And then we manage to get slightly offended that other people just aren't queuing, because we see it as good manners. You know, that whole wait your turn, stand here politely and just wait, speak when spoken to type thing. But yes, quite often, I know I've had the experience of going abroad and then, like, you know, you're in a shop and you're waiting to be acknowledged by the cashier, so you can approach the till with your things, and you think you're standing in a queue, and someone else just kind of looks over at you and they're like, what are you doing? Okay. And then they go to the cashier instead, and it leaves us Brits just standing there kind of like, oh, we were in this queue. You're cutting in front of us. It's a very common thing that happens with British tourists abroad, and it is funny. You know, when you stop and think, as a British person, you're like, okay, well, I need to kind of understand that it's just us that queue, I think. So they're not really doing anything rude. They just think we're being weird and just standing there. So I think maybe the whole principle of queuing might come into here.
Food etiquette.
Food etiquette, yes.
Number 1. Feel free to ask for some condiments.
Okay.
If you're eating out and your food is tasting a little bland, it's completely fine to ask for salt, pepper, or sauces to add a little zing to your meal. I know some places in Europe see it as an insult to the chef if you start adding a little spice of your own. But don't worry about that in the US. Nobody's going to be offended or give you weird looks if you ask the waiter for a bottle of ketchup. Even if you're at someone's house visiting, they won't see it as a jab to their culinary skills either. Some just like it spicier than others.
I think maybe this is something that we have in common, because I find, like, in the UK, it's not rude to ask for. I think it depends what you're asking for. So there's always salt and pepper that's, like, just on the table. Children always want ketchup with things, but then again, if I was eating like chips, fries, or like a burger, and there wasn't a sauce on it, then I wouldn't feel rude about asking for ketchup as an accompaniment for, you know, like potatoey bits or anything on the dish. But if I was eating somewhere a little bit fancier and I was eating a dish that was covered in a sauce, say, I might feel a little bit rude about asking for an unusual sauce, like, you know, would I ask for brown sauce if I had like a pie? Actually, no, I wouldn't feel rude for that. It's weird. I think it's very condition based for me, but I don't think that's rude. No, not really. Because, you know, we've all got our preferences, haven't we? Even, okay, maybe adding salt and pepper when you're at someone's house. If I'd prepared that meal, I might feel a little bit jaded, like, it's seasoned perfectly, thank you very much. So I get that.
Number 2, always tip.
Yes,
Okay,
this is
well,
different. Yeah.
maybe not always, but it's a rare occurrence if you don't tip your waiter, hairdresser, cab driver, and so on.
Really?
And only if the service was really awful. But even then, a lot of Americans feel guilty about not leaving any tip. The rule is 15 to 20% of the bill.
Yeah.
So get ready to do some mental math each time you eat out. I've heard that tipping isn't a thing in some countries, especially in East Asia, where restaurant staff always provide good service no matter what. But in the US, it's simply a sign of gratitude that your waiter did a good job, even though they're probably tired, their feet hurt, and they've got a bunch of other tables to tend to.
Oh.
Now-
So yeah, that is so in the UK, that is a little bit of a weird one. So we only tip in the in a restaurant, not a fast food restaurant. You know, a sit down and eat meal kind of place, not McDonald's or Burger King or anywhere like that. But when you have table service, we would be expected to tip, and it would be about 10%. Anything above 10%. Sometimes they add like a service fee on there as well. So tipping becomes very kind of like, well, do I need to tip because you've added the service charge already? So what am I tipping additionally for? Or, you know, there's no other occasion in the UK where we would tip. It is just solely in a restaurant. Although I hear tipping your tattoo artist is becoming more of a thing over here. We just copy most things that you do, guys.
Number 3, clean up after yourself at fast food restaurants. Of course, if you're going to the States, I imagine a lot of your eating out will be done in fast food joints. You'll see a lot more of those than your traditional sit and be served by a waiter types of places. But anyways, if you're finished eating and your tray is now full of wrappers, used napkins, and empty boxes, take it to the trash can and dispose of the garbage yourself.
Right.
Most fast food places don't have a separate cleaning staff for that. It's pretty much always the cashier that needs to find time between ringing people up to go clean up the dining area. So we try to help them out a bit and clean up after ourselves.
This might just be a person-by-person attitude in the UK. So if I'm thinking specifically of McDonald's, for example, I know there are members of staff that are kind of allocated on the floor to tidy when there's rubbish that's been left on tables. But me personally, I find that really, really rude to leave your leftover and your rubbish. And is it just because you can't be bothered walking 10 feet over to the bin and just disposing of it? So in the McDonald's around us, I have noticed they have members of staff that do that. I don't know whether that's the only responsibility they're doing for that shift. I don't know. But it just seems really, really rude. I just think, do you know, for the sake of tidying up after yourself, it takes you an extra 2 minutes as you're leaving that restaurant. Why would you not make someone else's shift slightly easier and not have to tidy up after you? I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I totally agree with this one. Absolutely. I think people that cannot be bothered doing this, I think it's really, really rude.
Number 4, open gifts immediately in front of the giver. Now, I was pretty surprised when I found out that opening a gift as soon as you get it is considered bad manners in certain parts of the world.
Is it?
I guess some cultures see it as kind of greedy when you start tearing into a present right away.
Right. The idea that this is rude in some cultures, I find kind of strange, because if someone has bought you a gift, surely you would open it in front of them so they can see how much you enjoy or how thankful you are for that gift. That goes without saying. I think that's something that we do in the UK. It's definitely something that I do, and I suppose my family do because I've been brought up to do that. But it just makes sense. What's the logic behind not opening that gift until later? I get what the narrator's saying here, but no, I'm with you guys on that one. That just seems like logic.
In the US, it's pretty much the opposite.
Yeah.
Open it as soon as you get it, right in front of the giver.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
way, they can see your reaction and you can thank them right there on the spot.
there we go.
There
100%.
are also no rules about using both hands or a certain hand when giving or receiving a gift. Just
Is that a
grab
thing?
it and open it already.
Yes. I
Number
don't understand
5.
that.
Be ready for small talk. How about that game last night? Whew, when's this weather gonna let up already? Yes, Americans love small talk, so don't be surprised if a stranger just starts chatting with you while you're waiting in line or sharing an elevator.
Do some
It could
people
be
not like
sports, the weather, traffic, anything just to have a short, light conversation.
that? Yes.
I can't really say why we like talking to people we don't even know, but I mean, if you're sharing a space with someone,
Connection?
are you just going to totally ignore their presence? That'd be awkward. Oh yeah, and you'll get asked how you're doing a lot, even by strangers. It's usually waiters and cashiers that'll greet you with a, "Hi, how are you today?" Just answer with "Fine, and you?" even if you're not exactly having a fantastic day. Number 6.
Just before we move on to number 6, this one has come up in a few videos. I'm not sure what cultures it is that don't like to acknowledge the existence of other people. I mean, I suppose actually in the UK, I think it depends what it is that you're doing where you are. So I imagine if you're on the bus and it's very, very busy and someone asks to sit on the seat next to you and they come over, I suppose I would gauge it on a person by person basis, because if someone is quite standoffish, like they're not making eye contact, they're reading, or they're clearly focusing on something else and avoiding conversation, that's probably just best to not make them awkward and speak to them. But if that person kind of is looking over or they make eye contact with you, then why would you not engage in small talk? I don't know. I think maybe over here it's very read the room type thing. But it's not unusual to walk past people in the morning. Someone's walking their dog and you're walking past on the way to work to say, "Hello, you okay?" That's not unusual in the UK. But at the same time, I don't think it's unusual to walk past somebody and not acknowledge them at all. Oh, so maybe that is very 50-50 over here, actually. Yeah, I gauge it based on the other person. If someone is giving clear signals that they're not in the mood to talk, I wouldn't engage. But it's not weird for someone to acknowledge you and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" Or if I don't know, if you're both waiting for the bus at a bus stop, for example, for someone to say like, "Oh, the weather's awful, isn't it?" That's not weird. So I don't know with other cultures. I don't know. Is that a weird thing? In the UK, I'd say 50-50. But I don't think it's meant maliciously if the other person just doesn't want to talk. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not offended by somebody wanting to make small talk, and I'm not awkward about it. Do you know what I mean?
Expect a lot of smiles.
Yes!
First of
This
all,
is good.
let me bust the myth that Americans constantly walk around smiling ear to ear. Nobody does that, because that'd be weird.
Yeah.
But
Is that like
again, if you're sharing a
weirdo?
space and making small talk with a stranger, or maybe someone opens or holds the door for you, they'll smile at you. And it's polite if you do the same.
It is.
Cashiers and waiters also greet you with a big, friendly smile.
Yes.
I read somewhere that this goes back to our early history as a country built by people who all spoke different languages. They didn't understand each other all that well, so they just smiled. But I still think we just like to be open and kind.
Yes, and that's
Number
not
7.
weird. Again, this isn't weird. You any of our US viewers, it's not weird if you come over to the UK and smile at other people, and you will get people passing you and smiling. I know that maybe this is, I'm sure if there's any viewers from London, for example, might disagree with me here. I find bigger cities, I don't know whether it's just because they're busier, they're more fast paced, but I find that generally speaking, more people have less time to stop and chat, make small talk, or smile, open the door. So you get the impression that it's a little bit ruder. I don't think it's rude so much in the sense that I think people are just busier. You know, the whole environment's just very rushed, and you've just got to get from one place to another. There's a bit of a kind of cold feel about it in some places, like when you go on the tube in London, or like the underground, anywhere like kind of traveling from one place to another. It tends to be very, very busy. So I understand that. But it's not weird. You know, you will get people that pass you by in the morning and say, hi, how are you doing? Or smile at you at very least. I still, as a British person, I would be a little bit kind of offended, a little bit jaded if I was walking along the street and someone was passing me and they made eye contact. I would smile. And if their reaction was to not acknowledge me, look down at the floor and not smile back, I would be a bit like, oh, rude. But that's just, I don't know if that's just me. But yeah, smiling, it's not a weird thing. It's still something that like a lot of people in the UK would do, passing people by. 50-50 again, maybe.
Respect the bubble.
Respect the bubble?
Now, here's a pretty funny thing about Americans. We're friendly, we love to chat, but we also really like our personal bubble.
Right, okay.
The unspoken rule is to stand about an arm's length away when you're talking with someone.
Yes.
We're also not too big on touching during conversation, because this can be misconstrued as a way of flirting. Of course, the rule doesn't apply with close friends and family, but still, even then, most Americans aren't too touchy-feely. Number 8.
I mean, I know I'm interrupting this narrator. I'm so sorry. That is common sense. That goes without saying. I think we're probably a little bit more standoffish in the UK. That seems to be the kind of stereotype, doesn't it? I think it would be weird over here if you were making small talk with somebody and they got within this kind of distance of you, like an arm's length, like the narrator said. That would be odd, and I think anyone would think that's a little bit, whoa, okay, you're invading my personal space kind of thing. So I don't think that's just specific to the US. Maybe we're more similar than we realize, guys, but that rule is definitely one over here as well. And you know, if you touch somebody that you didn't know in the middle of a conversation, just small talk, that would be weird. That would make you kind of like go, oh, okay, I'm gonna go. So same here.
And definitely no kissing.
No kissing in public.
I know in countries like Spain and France, people often greet each other with a peck or two on the cheek.
Okay.
There might be some Americans who greet the European way, but overall, we don't kiss each other as a way to say hi. Again, my personal bubble is my sanctuary, so don't come in it with puckered lips ablazing. It's best to just say hi, smile, and keep it at that.
Yeah.
Number 9.
Okay, this is the same over here. Unless you're greeting family, friends, you can expect no one to kiss you like that over here. That, by our standards, that would be considered odd, really odd, especially if you're a complete stranger. That would actually be borderline, maybe psychotic. I don't know. No one is going to greet you like that over in the UK. I don't even know, like in countries like France, Italy, more European countries, do they greet strangers like this? I don't think they do. I think this is more friends and family, maybe.
9. Being loud is usually okay.
Okay.
The stereotype of the loud American tourist might ring true most of the time, since we tend to project our voices, even out in public. It's not that we're yelling all the time, but I'd say we certainly speak louder than people in Europe or Asia. I've gotten some friendly reminder to take it down a few decibels when visiting my friends abroad. But hey, if you're ever in the States, Feel free to laugh out loud or
Oh,
get
good.
particularly animated while telling a joke. But of course, there's a time and place for that. You still have to hush down in places like libraries. Shh. Number
I'm wondering, guys, I think I've mentioned this before. I'm wondering if it's a confidence thing, you know. I think the stereotype that a lot of places have of people from the US is that you kind of radiate confidence. And I like, do some of you have like, there seems to be more of an emphasis on public speaking, maybe throughout your education, or that's the impression that a lot of us get through watching like American TV and things like, you know, the debate team, making speeches, running for like class president and things like that. We're not really encouraged traditionally in those kind of ways. I don't know, maybe in private schools, maybe there's more of an emphasis on this confidence with public speaking, but generally in your mainstream high schools, primary schools, it's not really a focus. So I don't know whether it's just that you guys are a lot more confident with speaking to strangers and public speaking than the rest of us. Maybe it is just a stereotype. I've not really met many Americans face to face, so I can't really say that I've ever found anyone from the US to be loud. But maybe it's a confidence thing. That's maybe, I suspect maybe.
10. Indirectness is politeness. So here's the thing about Americans. A direct, no, I don't want or like that is seen as pretty rude. But
Yes,
if an
okay.
American gives you a polite, no thanks, I'd rather not, or I don't think that's the best idea, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're on the fence about it. No means no, even if it's said indirectly and super politely. It's frowned upon to try and convince someone to do something or change their mind because it's seen as pushy and disrespectful to their wishes.
I think it's a similar thing over here. To directly say no to a request, generally, maybe amongst kind of the British, is perceived as quite abrupt, I would say. So, in all the way around the world kind of way to say no, thank you. I don't know. Even I think that's kind of good manners. There's actually, when you think about it, there's nothing wrong with saying no, I don't want to do that, or no, not my thing. But I don't know what it is that just makes us feel like, no, that's far too direct. It's too rude. It's too abrupt. I'll say, oh no, thank you. I think maybe not this time. Maybe another time. So maybe again, there's similarities between the UK and the US there with that one.
11. Sit in the back seat of a cab.
Oh,
Now this is
yes,
something interesting I
yes.
found out about Australia and New Zealand. There, it's considered rude to take the back seat of a cab because it's almost like you're showing that you expect to be chauffeured by someone who's lower than you. Well, don't worry about that in the US. In fact, you should ride in the back seat because the driver might give you a weird look otherwise.
Like in
It's
the UK,
not an
we're the
elitist
same.
thing, and you can still make friendly small talk from the back.
Yeah.
Just respect the driver's personal bubble, that's all.
So this is another one, guys. I think there's more similarities than differences with the UK. So you would be expected to, well, as an unwritten rule, I think that the driver would expect people to get into the back of a taxi or a cab. If you were on your own and you got into the front, that's kind of like a bit like, oh, hello, we're going to have this awkward back and forth, then we're going to have to talk now. There's conversation that's going to happen here. But I suppose if there's like four of you, if there's a few of you that are getting into that taxi or that cab, then one of you is probably going to have to sit in the front, depending on the size of the cab. So that's not avoidable, I guess. So maybe it's circumstantial. Again, another one. So yeah, if there's a group, it's okay. But if there's just the one, if it's just you, we would get in the back and make conversation to the taxi driver, cab driver. But yeah, I don't know, getting in the front kind of suggests you're like, you know them, like you're getting in there to have a chat with them, like, hello, you're going to talk to me now because I've chosen to sit in the front of the car with you. Isn't that different? Isn't that strange? Like the differences.
Number 12. Feel free to keep your shoes on inside. I had a friend from
50-50
Russia
here.
recently ask me, why is it that in all American movies, people are walking around their house with their shoes on?
We do as
And
well.
I just told him straight up, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Now, there are plenty of families here that don't have a no shoes indoors policy, although I'd say the majority don't. So here's a good rule of etiquette to live by if you ever visit an American's home. When you walk in, ask if you should
Yes.
take your shoes off at the door. If they say, nah, you're okay, don't feel bad about walking around their house in your shoes. I know it seems bizarre to most people around the world, but it's a-okay here.
It's fine here. Guys, look how many similarities we have. So again, just ask. I would always ask. I'd say it's about 50-50. Some houses, especially if you've just had new carpet put down on the stairs, or some households just are no shoes kind of household. Some, like I've been brought up in a household that just don't care too much. It is what it is. So yeah, 50-50. I would just always ask. I think it's polite to ask.
13. It's okay to keep it casual. Overall, I'd say the biggest thing about Americans is that most of us are pretty casual and laid back. If you're ever out and about in the US, you'll see a lot of people running errands in sweatpants, gym shorts, baseball caps, and even their PJs. But it's not just about clothes either. We often keep it on a first-name basis, even with people that are generally referred to more formally in other countries. For example, most of the time your boss is just Jim or Janet,
Yes.
not Mr. or Mrs. Jones. You might start off more formally, but I guarantee you that that person will say right off the bat,
Call me
"Hey,
Jim."
call me Jim." Now, what would be weird is if their name isn't Jim. Maybe it's Howard or Benny. Then what you say is, "Hey, call me a cab." So, are any of these
Can you imagine?
Americanisms different or the same in your country?
Many are the same.
And to all my fellow Americans, can you add anything to the list? Let me know down in the comments. If you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share it with a friend. But hey, don't go call me a cab just yet. We have over 2,000 cool videos for you to check out. All you have to do is pick the left or right video, click on it, and enjoy. Stay on the bright side of life.
It's funny, isn't it? I've learned a few new things here. That was an interesting video. So yeah, I think there's many more similarities between the UK and the US, maybe customs wise, etiquette. There's going to be differences, of course there is. But I think actually, maybe it's because we're just so heavily influenced by you guys from the US. Maybe we've adopted a lot more of your kind of customs. I would say they get adopted more easily when they just make sense. So like the whole shoe thing, unless it is a very strict tradition or a custom in a country, like I know, is it like in Japan, it's very much, and maybe in a lot of other Asian countries as well, actually, no shoes. Like you take those shoes off as soon as you come in through the door, and that's customary. But yeah, like over here again, it's a 50-50, guys. The polite thing to do is to just ask, isn't it? That makes so much more sense. And then, you get your answer. But yes, I think we actually share a lot more in common than we have differences. But again, like I said, it's just things that just make sense, isn't it? So guys, did you learn anything new there? Are there any that didn't make the list? Like I said, queuing is a funny one that I know is very specific to the UK. We like our queues. I think it comes from wartime rationing. Like lining up to receive your rations, and we've just carried it on. We love a queue. We queue for absolutely everything. But yes. Anyway, guys, let me know if there's any missing from that list, or if there's any quirky little differences or similarities that you can think of. Let me know. And guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Take care, and I will catch you on the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.